You're watching College Football Now by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here. Thanks for joining us as early signing day is less than 24 hours away. Coming up on today's show, we'll go over the top 25 players in the 2024 recruiting class and tell you where they are committed and expected to sign tomorrow. We'll get to all of that and more coming up in just a matter of moments. Before we do, folks, we are doing more college football content than ever before here on College Football Now by Chat Sports. And if you want even more than what we're already bringing you, you need to subscribe to the channel. The boss has said we can do more college football content leading up to the college football playoff if we get 20 subscribers off today's video. So if you're a diehard college football fan, you want the latest when it comes to recruiting, the transfer portal, college football bowl games, and more, subscribe now for free. Join the family for the latest happenings in the best sport in the world. We got you covered right here on College Football Now. Let's begin with the number one player in the country. That is Jeremiah Smith, the wide receiver out of the state of Florida. He is headed to the Ohio State, the five-star product out of Opa-locka, Florida. And this is a guy that is number one nationally at his position, number one overall player, five-star recruit, all across the board, and he has been dead set on being committed to the Buckeyes for about a calendar year now. Since 2022, he has made it known that he wanted to be a Buckeye, and he comes from a good family of football players. His cousin is current Seattle Seahawks quarterback Geno Smith there in Seattle. So big deal for the Ohio State Buckeyes, trying to replace Marvin Harrison Jr. and that loaded receiving core. They got a good one with Jeremiah Smith. Next on our list, the number two player in the country is Williams Nwaneri, the defensive lineman going to Mizzou. And with Warari, what's so fascinating is that this is such a big deal for the Mizzou Tigers. Eli Drinkwitz, their head coach with that Missouri program, coming off their first top 10 season in a long time. They get their highest rated recruit since Doral Green Beckham back in 2012. So a long time coming for the Mizzou Tigers to get to a player of this caliber at number two. Number three is Ellis Robinson, the fourth. The corner is headed to Georgia. He's out of IMG Academy, one of the top players in the country, and the number two player in his state, the number one player at his position. Number four, the Auburn Tigers snag up Cam Coleman, the wide receiver from Alabama, staying in the state, going with the Tigers. Hugh Freeze in that program this year had its ups and downs, competed with Alabama, lost a home game to New Mexico State, but now they're getting some big talent there with the Auburn Tigers. Number five, the first quarterback off the board. The number one quarterback in all of college football of this class is Julian Sayin, headed to the University of Alabama. And we've seen the pedigree of quarterbacks that have come through the Crimson Tide program over the last few years. When you talk about the likes of Jaylen Hurts to Tua to a number of guys, Mac Jones, and now they're going to continue to add to that. Now, Bryce Young, of course, we'll see if that turns into another future first-round talent there with the Crimson Tide. What school has the top recruiting class? We'll go over our rankings at the end of the show, but want to hear from you guys, what you guys have seen of the 2024 class. What school came out on top? Chime in the comment section and let us know what you think. Today's show sponsored by Prize Picks. Prize Picks, the place to go for daily fantasy made easy. Here's how Prize Picks works. You choose two or more players from any given category, and you get the choice of more or less, whether you're talking fantasy points, passing yards, pass completions, receptions, all sorts of different categories to choose from. You can mix and match different sports, college football, the NFL, the NBA, NHL, and more. I'm looking ahead to the college football playoff semifinal, the Rose Bowl game, the Michigan Wolverines and the Alabama Crimson Tide. I got J.J. McCarthy to have more than 188.5 passing yards. Jalen Milroe, the Alabama quarterback, to have more than 32.5 rushing yards. Play along with me on Prize Picks and get a $100 deposit match on your first entry. PrizePicks.com/CLNS, promo code CLNS to play along with us today. That's PrizePicks.com/CLNS, promo code CLNS. The link is in the comments and the description of today's video. The next quarterback off the board is Dylan Raiola. And if that last name sounds familiar, He is the son of former Detroit Lions center Dominic Raiola. And it's been a fascinating path for Dylan Raiola to get to the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Back in May of last year, he originally committed to the Ohio State Buckeyes, but then decommitted from Ohio State shortly thereafter that. Then, in May of 2023, about a year later from his original commitment to Ohio State, committed to Georgia, then decommitted from Georgia just a few days ago, and then ahead of National Signing Day, he ends up committing to the Nebraska Cornhuskers. We heard Matt Rule, the head coach of the Nebraska Cornhuskers, say just a few days ago that a transfer portal quarterback, a good one, is going to cost you $1.5 to $2 million. He goes to the recruiting route to find one of the best quarterbacks in the country. Very curious how much that went for there for Matt Rule, but you can tell he's got a good eye on the quarterback market with the guys that are out there. Next on the list, Texas Tech. The Red Raiders, who once produced Michael Crabtree, get a pretty big signing at wide receiver Micah Hudson, who stays in the state of Texas from Temple, Texas, the number one player in the state of Texas this year. Justin Williams, linebacker, is headed to Georgia. He's a Texas kid. He'll be making his way out of the state to go to the Bulldogs. And then Oklahoma on the board for the first time with the number 9 overall player. We've seen Brent Venables do an incredible job on the recruiting trail for the Oklahoma Sooners over the last couple of years as they built that program and moved towards the SEC. They snag David Stone from IMG Academy in adding to that defense, who we've seen Brent Venables do a really good job of continuing to build and get some momentum there with that defense there in Norman. Rounding out the top 10 at quarterback for the Florida Gators is DJ Lagway out of the state of Texas. A big signing for Billy Napier and the Gators, but it might not be for long. Listen to this from Chad Simmons of On 3. Both Texas A&M and USC are continuing to chip away at 5-star QB DJ Lagway. Lagway was back in Gainesville last weekend and had been committed to the Gators for a year plus. Mike Elko went home with the Lagways earlier this month and is adamant about keeping the elite quarterback just down the road in state. After losing former 5-star quarterback Malachi Nelson in the transfer portal this week, Lincoln Riley and the Trojans have re-entered the hunt. USC finished right behind Florida for Lagway's commitment last December. So, what do you think? Will DJ Lagway ultimately stay at Florida, or will we have a flip of his commitment by the time signing day rolls around tomorrow? Get your predictions in now. Y for yes, in for no, and let us know what you think if they hold on to him or not. Number 11, the Colorado Buffaloes. A big signing for Deion Sanders, Coach Prime. A lot's been made about what's going on with that program, and they end up getting much-needed help on the offensive line that really struggled this year, getting one of the top tackles in the country, Jordan Seaton, out of IMG Academy, who is the number one player at his position. Number 12, another top talent for Alabama, Nick Saban, doing a great job recruiting hard. He snags up Ryan Williams, a wide receiver staying in the state of Alabama, will continue to play for the Crimson Tide. Texas, they're in the college football playoff for the first time ever. Steve Sarkisian doing an awesome job with what they've been able to do, bringing in quality talent. And this time he gets another star defensive player, Colin Simmons, the edge rusher, commits. He'll stay in the state of Texas, a Duncanville, Texas product. Number 14 on our list, KJ Bolden, a safety, is headed to Florida State. He's a Georgia product. Will go down the road to Tallahassee to join that Florida State program that had an undefeated season, won the ACC, was just short of making the college football playoff, but Mike Norvell has done a really good job building that program year after year, and getting top talent is a big reason why. Much has been made about the Miami Hurricanes with the job that Mario Cristobal is doing. They haven't quite met the expectation that they would like, but it's not for a lack of effort on the recruiting trail. Justin Scott, the defensive lineman out of Chicago, Illinois, commits to the Miami Hurricanes to get some much-needed help on the defense. Number 16, that is where we find the Clemson Tigers going with Sammy Brown, the linebacker out of Georgia. Will go just down the road to Clemson, South Carolina to join Dabo Swinney and that crew. Meanwhile, playing for the rival of Clemson, the South Carolina Gamecocks, Dylan Stewart, an edge rusher from the Washington, D.C. area, is going to go play for Shane Beamer in that South Carolina squad, who they had a down year this year, but Shane Beamer's done a really good job with finding talent for that South Carolina program. Number 18, another one for Alabama and the Crimson Tide, as a Jaylen Mbakwe, the athlete from Alabama, a multi-talented player, is going to stay in state, the number 3 player in that state. Be very curious what Saban does with him. Then at number 19, to the Texas A&M Aggies, Mike Elko, his first year as their head coach, he's able to snag up Terry Bussey, an athlete, to stay within the state of Texas, where he's from, in Timpson, Texas, the number 5 player in the state. Tennessee, the Volunteers program, Josh Heupel has done a really good job bringing in some top talent over the last few years, in particular receivers. And another one is added to the list with Mike Matthews at this spot. He goes from the state of Georgia, moves over to Tennessee, where he's the number 5 player in the country at his position. 5 more names to get to, but first, who's the best player in the 2024 recruiting class? We've given you several names, but who comes to mind for you? Weigh in the comment section and let us know who you think the top player in 2024 is. Rounding out the top 25, Clemson back on the board again as they snag up the number 21 overall player, Bryant Wesco, from the state of Texas, and the number 6 player at his position. Some much-needed help for quarterback Cade Klubnik in that Clemson offense. Number 22, Armondo Blount, the defensive lineman. He'll go to Florida State. More defensive talent headed to Tallahassee to join Mike Norvell there. 23, we mentioned Ohio State looking for some receiver help earlier, trying to play some Marvin Harrison Jr. and company. They find it again as Mylan Graham, a wide receiver from New Haven, Indiana, joins the fold, the number 1 player in the state of Indiana. 24, Texas, they got some receivers to replace as well with that bunch. After Xavier Worthy had a big year, he's expected to go to the draft. Ryan Wingo comes in from St. Louis, Missouri, to the fold, the number 2 player in the state of Missouri. And then another one for the Longhorns, Brendan Baxter, an offensive tackle from California, the number 2 player in the state of California. He commits to the Texas Longhorns, and that is your top 25 recruits for 2024. The top 10 team recruiting rankings heading into tomorrow, where things stand right now. The defending national champions, the Georgia Bulldogs, who will not get to defend their title, actually. They are the number 1 recruiting class in the country right now. Ohio State at 2, Bama at 3, Florida State at 4, Texas at 5, Miami at the number 6 spot. The U trying to get back. Number 7, the Oklahoma Sooners. 8 is Oregon. 9, Notre Dame. And number 10, the Florida Gators. Thanks for joining us here on this edition of College Football Now. For more college football coverage, subscribe now for free, and we'll see you next time.